Welcome to the Practical Growth Podcast. I'm your host, E.B. Johnson, top writer on Medium.com, published author, and master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. You've landed on the podcast that takes you on a journey into the heart of relationships and self-discovery. This is a must listen for those who are ready to overcome their toxic relationships and their toxic patterns. You can expect real talk, practical guidance, and raw and relatable guests that you'll be talking about for weeks. Let's get into it. Hello again, my lovelies. It is me, your host, E.B. Johnson, your favorite neighborhood NLPNP and narcissistic family expert. We're back again, showing up. I'm here. And we are going to really take a deep dive into a great episode. And it's a unique episode. It's an episode that you will not have listened to before. You will not have heard before, because it is a topic that I've kind of coined myself. Although there's lots of other terminologies and this metaphor has been used time and time again. We are going to be talking today about a form of narcissistic conditioning, a very common form of narcissistic conditioning, which, if you don't know, narcissistic conditioning is the behavioral conditioning that we get subjected to after being in long-term relationships with narcissists, whether we're raised by them or whether we have more intimate relationships with them or friendships that last a really, really long time, okay? Their manipulations, their reactions, their behaviors over time create behavioral patterns in ourselves, behavioral reactions and responses in ourselves, which can actually be extremely toxic to us, extremely damaging. It's a huge part of why even when we find the power to escape those relationships, we end up getting stuck in cycles where we're still unhappy and we still don't know what to do with ourselves. That's why today we're going to be breaking down the Prometheus Cycle, or Prometheus Syndrome, as you may have heard me call it if you follow me on TikTok or if you're one of my readers on Medium.com. That's right. We're going to talk about the Prometheus Cycle and how you get stuck in this pattern of denying yourself because of the narcissistic abuse that you have survived. Before we get started today, though, you already know, I'm going to have to remind you, because here we are. It's August, folks. It is August 2nd at the time that this will be published. That means the year is basically almost over. Autumn is just around the corner, and when you get there, it might as well be Christmas, right? The slow slide to Halloween, all that good stuff, which means 2023 is knocking at the door. 2023 is knocking at the door, and this is the last call for anyone who wants to work with me and to make sure they don't go into next year feeling like they feel right now in 2022. That is correct. My coaching books will be closing December 15th of this year, which means if you want 8 weeks to work one-on-one with me and to make sure you make some major shifts in your life before the new year, then you have to apply to work with me now. This is a private one-on-one 8-week program. It is designed using NLP techniques, which means you are going to be given the tools to reprogram your own brain and to create a fully defined sense of self and confidence that will enable you to act quickly in the name of your desires, your happiness, your well-being, and your recovery. But these spots will sell out. I don't work with everybody, guys. This is not some big money scam. That's not what's happening here, right? I only take 6 people, and this is going to be your last chance. My current program, completely sold out, right? And there's people on the waiting list ready to go. So if you want to work with me, if you're ready to ditch the anxiety, if you're ready to ditch the fear, if you're ready to stop making choices for everyone else and to start making choices for yourself, if you're ready to break the shackles of your narcissistic conditioning, that narcissistic abuse, that narcissistic family, then you have to apply to work with me now. Head over to therealebjohnson.com and click on working with me, and you'll find the application there. Very straightforward process. But again, you're running out of time. The year is almost over and my books are almost closed. So make sure you apply today if you want to get coached by me one-on-one in a one-of-a-kind NLP narcissistic abuse recovery program. Right. Now that that is out of the way, let's get into it. Prometheus syndrome, Prometheus cycles. What in the actual heck am I talking about? Because that sounds like something absolutely wackadoo. Don't panic. It is not nearly as complicated as it sounds. Basically, Prometheus syndrome or the Prometheus cycle is a term that I coined to describe a very, very common form of narcissistic conditioning. And to understand it, it helps a bit if you understand the myth of Prometheus. So Prometheus was a sort of god, and he was a very empathetic god, especially when it came to mankind. Mankind during his time was not living a very good life. They didn't even have fire. They were living in darkness. They were living in cold. They were struggling to survive. And it really, really touched Prometheus's heart. He felt very bad for mankind. So he went up to Mount Olympus and he tricked the gods and stole fire from them and gave it to man so that man could have fire and he could hunt and he could cook for his family and they could keep themselves warm and etc., etc. They could improve their lives greatly and live more like the gods. Unfortunately, this angered Zeus and the rest of the gods on Mount Olympus. So to punish Prometheus, they chained him to the top of one of the highest mountains, and every day an eagle would swoop down and peck away at his body and his liver until he would pass away and expire. But just when he thought that the rest of death would comfort him, he would wake up again, and his body would be whole. And just as he was feeling a sense of relief, or even sometimes confusion, he would look around and the eagle would begin to swoop down again and would begin to peck away at him again and again and again and eat at his body until Prometheus would again die and the cycle would start all over again. This is very, very similar to the pattern of self-denial that so many of us get trapped in when we get out on the other side of narcissistic abuse. And that doesn't matter if it's like narcissistic family abuse or if it is narcissistic partner abuse. It all starts with those one-sided demands of the narcissistic person who's calling the shots, who's in charge. And then it ends with you as an individual who has no idea who they are or how to fill themselves up from the inside out. It is a nasty, nasty, nasty cycle to get stuck in. And what's really sad about it is not only is it overlooked, but very often, depending on where you live, who you're around, what kind of life you lead, it can be reinforced. Right? It can be reinforced by the same kind of people who like to gaslight you about your childhood or your experiences. These kinds of people might create cultural conditions around you, which reinforces these narcissistic conditions. So to break the cycle, you really have to learn how to shift your perspective in a number of ways. You have to learn how to see the bigger picture and to also truly understand yourself, your desires, intentions, and then also those intentions of the people around you. You have to see how little space you're actually allowing yourself to take up in the entire world. And to do that, you really got to like step back and see the entire kind of Promethean cycle, this syndrome, for what it really is. This Prometheus cycle, now it's created in a very, very interesting pattern because like all things narcissists do, really like all things any of us do, because our brains are computers, we do things in patterns, right? And the ultimate outcome of this pattern is that you learn to just give and give and give and give and give of yourself until you just break with exhaustion. You absolutely break. Maybe it's a big emotional explosion, or maybe you self-sabotage yourself in some horrible way. Whatever it is, when you have this Prometheus syndrome, you learn to self-sacrifice, take up as little space as possible, and to give until you have nothing left to give. And the way this is created is in 3 steps. Through the first step, you have idealization, right? That's how all narcissistic relationships, bonds, manipulations start, whether that is in childhood, right? In the earliest days when your parents start to idealize you as their little doll or their little toy soldier that's going to grow up to play football or be a pageant queen or whatever it is. There's this period of idealization. And that is when you and the narcissist are seeing each other as exactly what you want to see. You're bonding, everything's great, everything's perfect. You're so interested in one another. There's been no disappointments of expectations at this stage. Things happen hot and heavy if it's a relationship, and you'll hear yourself saying, I just have never met someone like this. They're just like me. They're so perfect. We love all the same things. I can't believe I found them. This idealization stage is the first step, and that is when we form these first really hard and fast attachments, and we let down our walls, and we really start to invest in this relationship with the narcissistic person. Once we are there, however, it moves on to the second stage, and that is destruction. So if we're talking about the family, during this stage, this is when the narcissist who is in power or who is in control has to start breaking you down. Maybe you've started to ask questions, or you've started to interfere in some way, or you've started to demand some accountability in the relationship that you have with them. Maybe they're a parent and you call out something they're doing wrong. That is when a narcissist is going to have to enter into this destruction phase where they break you down and reinforce your place of inferiority beneath them. And they're able to do this. They're really able to do this. Break down your self-esteem, break down your sense of self, make you feel like you were less than them because you glorified them in that idealization stage, right? So if it's family, that idealization stage is that, oh, this is my mother, this is my father. They are better, bigger, and more important than everyone else around me. So you're already going into this relationship with them as you grow up with the mindset that you are beneath them. And it's the same in a romantic relationship. Oh, this person is so incredible. They're so amazing. I can't believe they love me. Again, you're going into this relationship with the mindset that you're beneath them. So when the narcissist then moves into that second stage, destruction, they can start to peck at your insecurities. They can say, yeah, look, you are beneath me because look at you. You've done this mistake. You've done that mistake. You didn't give me what I wanted, so you are beneath me. And you believe that. You take it on. You say, oh, you're right, this is my fault. This is when the narcissist runs you down, reinforces that place of inferiority in your relationship or the family system. And then that is when the stage is set for Prometheus cycles, the Prometheus syndrome, to be perpetuated. And here's how. Now that you're attached to the narcissist and they have destroyed or pecked away at your sense of self-esteem or your sense of self-concept, they now move into the third stage that sets the tone for the Prometheus syndrome. That's total denial. Okay? They make you start chasing their love. They've made you believe that you're less than them. So through negative reinforcement, they teach you now to stop making room for yourself. When you go and do something you want, maybe you take a class for yourself, or you go to hang out with friends, or maybe you want to take a trip by yourself, they hit the roof, right? You get punished. When it comes to the family, maybe you start dressing differently, believing differently, wanting to choose a different career or a different school for yourself, you get punished. This is the negative reinforcement. So little by little, you learn, well, if I choose to do a class for myself, I'm going to get punished. So it's bad. If I do this thing for myself, I'm going to get punished. That's bad. But I don't get punished when I chase after the kids and give to the kids. I don't get punished when I chase after my husband, my partner, my parents, and give. I don't get punished when I do what they want. When I deny myself and do what they want, this is where we learn to deny ourselves. This total denial of self. You are disallowed from doing the things you want to do. You're disallowed from building the relationships that you value. You are not allowed to do anything that would take you away from the narcissist or their power. So there's elements of isolation to this. It becomes a condition of your existence with them. And if you've been with a narcissist, you totally understand this. And that is what lands you in this cycle of behavioral conditioning, which follows you even after that relationship ends. Even if you get out of it, you are conditioned almost physically to respond to doing something for yourself. You'll get a negative response. You go to take that yoga class for yourself after breaking it off with the narcissist, and you will still feel anxiety. You'll feel rushed. Why am I doing this for myself? I can't believe I'm wasting this time. These are all forms of self-denial that you've been conditioned to do. Your heart rate will go up. You might start sweating. You might feel knots in your stomach because you're expecting the narcissist to pop up and yell at you for doing something for yourself. This is where that Promethean syndrome happens. You have now been conditioned to give until there is nothing left. Nothing left. You are exhausted. You are empty. You are hollow. There's nothing left. And then what happens? Well, you better wake up the next day and start it again, sweetie. You do it in the next relationship. You do it with the same partner. You do it with your family. The cycle starts over again. Somehow, you find the strength to just keep dying for them. Now, I know that some of you are probably sitting there. Every time I explain this to my clients, I swear to goodness, like, jaws drop. Jaws absolutely drop. And they go, holy crap, I have been conditioned to do that, to think of everyone else but myself. And it's part of a narcissistic pattern. And that's exactly how it works. And that's how it happens. And that is how subtle the slide is, how manipulative these narcissistic individuals can be. So, are you living within this kind of a cycle? Do you have Prometheus syndrome? Do you go into every relationship with this Prometheus syndrome and just automatically set yourself up for sabotage, for them to take advantage of you? Well, let's talk about some of the signs, because it's not just as easy as like giving everything to your parents or giving everything to your husband, okay? It's a little bit more complex. So let's work through some of these signs that you may be living or carrying Prometheus syndrome into your life and relationships. Number one is the most obvious. You have no idea who you are or what you want. No idea who you are or what you want. When someone asks you that question, the first thing you think of is, well, my kids, or, well, my partner, well, my husband, well, my wife. If those are the first things that you think of on the top of your head, then you are not thinking of yourself, which is totally okay to do. You can hold space for yourself and not take any space away from your children, from your family, from your loved ones, from your parents, from your partners, whoever it is. You have enough emotional bandwidth, mental bandwidth for all of that. But a narcissist doesn't want anyone else to have any space in your life, so they've tricked you into thinking that you can't hold any space for yourself. Number two, you have no self-esteem. Your self-esteem has just been totally obliterated, okay? You feel horrible about yourself. You're super insecure. You think everything you think, do, say, want is just crap. And that's especially true when it comes to the things that you want. You've just gotten into the habit of thinking that if you want it, it's probably wrong, it's probably stupid, it's probably silly, it's probably a waste of time. This could be a sign that you also are dealing with this Prometheus syndrome. Now, this third sign, I want you to just take a second here, and I want you to take a step back, and I want you to imagine that there is a series of buckets. Let's say like recycling buckets in front of you. There's one that is you. There's one that's your family, there's one that's your work, and there's one that's your friends, or maybe it's your relationship. You can figure out which one of those things. Now, I want you to imagine filling each one of those up with bottles according to how much you put into it, how much time you spend, how many things you do for that person or for that group of people, how much energy you spend thinking about them, worrying about them, planning for them, organizing for them, whatever it is. Imagine that those bins are filling up, filling up, filling up. Now take a step back and look at your bin. Is your bin as full as everyone else's bin? Are there as many bottles in your bin as in the bin of your husband or your wife? Are there as many bottles in your bin as the bins of your children? What about the work bin? Is there a balance between the number of bottles in the work bin and your bin, your personal bin? Probably not if you are in this Prometheus cycle, you have this Prometheus syndrome. Because what happens is, the third sign, you spend all your time doing and being for everyone but yourself. You give. You have this big heart, you feel bad, you want them to have it all, and then you have nothing left for yourself. Number 4. Now this comes down to your beliefs. So this is going to be true or false. You think that sacrificing yourself is a requirement for love or acceptance. So you think that in order to be a good wife, you have to completely deny yourself, give it all up, stay at home, do everything he says, everything he wants, and never ever do anything that you want to do, especially if he says no. Or maybe you think the same thing about your kids. Having kids means that's it. You can't ever do anything for yourself ever again, and you must always do for them and never for yourself. You might think that way about your parents, your career, any number of things. Do you believe that in order for you to be successful in any relationship in your life, you have to completely sacrifice yourself and your needs and your desires wholly at every turn? Well, then you probably have Prometheus syndrome, because it's just untrue. There is no relationship that exists in which you should always deny yourself completely, okay? Not even parenthood. Sure, you have to make some sacrifices for your children, but you also have to make sure you're filling yourself up from the inside out so that you can show up and be the most present, active, positive parent you can be in their lives, right? There has to be a balance. But that doesn't exist when you're narcissistically conditioned. You don't learn how to balance. You don't learn how to make room for yourself. You only learn how to sacrifice for others. Now, number 5 here, the 5th sign you might be living with Prometheus syndrome. It's all about looking at your patterns. Look at your partners, past and present. Look at your family. Look at your friends. Look at your work. Do these people in your life take more from you than they give? Do they take more from you than they give? Do you give them more time and energy and effort than they give you? Do you feel completely drained when you interact with these people or these things with absolutely no positive benefit on the other side? Again, every relationship has to have balance, has to have give and take. If you keep choosing people who only take from you and then toss you to the side when you're done, Prometheus syndrome. Prometheus syndrome, my love. And lastly, I want you to look at your career. This is for my career honeys who are, really grinding away in that world. Is your entire career based around groveling and self-sacrifice? It doesn't always just come down to romantic relationships and what's going on in our families. Some of us play out our conditioning through the career choices that we invest in and the abuses that we allow ourselves to take on in those spaces. So look at your work patterns. Look at your work patterns. Do you put in a lot more than you get back? Is it ruining your life, yet you keep selling yourself for more and more and more and more, becoming emptier every day? Well, that may be all good and dandy, but I know that you're sitting there now going, okay, fine. How do we stop doing this? How do we stop selling ourselves, and not getting the same thing back in return? How do we deal with that? How do we function like normal people without getting in these one-sided situations? I don't leave you hanging. So here it is. Here are my 3 steps for kickstarting your place out of this cycle, right? This is how you're going to slingshot yourself out of this toxic gravitational wasteland. First, you need to focus on rebuilding your self-esteem. You need to love yourself so much that you're willing to tell anyone who violates your boundaries to F off. Okay? Anyone, parents, friends, family, adult children, anyone who is not being respectful, kind, supportive, whatever it is specifically that you rationally, reasonably need from them in a human-to-human relationship. You need to have enough self-love and self-respect to go, you are not respecting me, and I don't keep people around. I don't invest my time and energy into people that don't invest time and energy into me, period. Put a dot on it. So you need to build your self-esteem, and the fast way to do that is to start by doing things you're good at, doing things you love, things that you're passionate about, by getting out in the world, meeting new people. It's engaging with life in the most positive way you can is one of the best ways to increase your self-esteem. And then there's all the little ways. Start talking to yourself positively. Shut down your inner critic. Learn to lean into your emotions instead of denying them. All of these things will help you build confidence and self-esteem in who you are and what you want from everything in your life. Number 2, learn how to spot the balance in your life. Learn how to regularly stop, check in, and take a balance inventory on what's going on around you and in your relationships. That means you constantly, regularly need to stop and say, right, what am I giving here? What am I getting? What do I, again, reasonably, rationally need? I'm not talking about like, they better give me a Gucci bag every 6 weeks. We're talking about like, is this person communicating with me the way I need to be communicated with? Do they make me feel good reasonably? Do they, support me growing and becoming a better person? You have to constantly assess these relationships and look at the patterns. Look at the patterns. Who's showing up? When are they showing up? What are they doing? Who's doing what? And the same goes for your work and any other aspect of your life. Is it balanced? Are you making space for yourself, or are you being pushed into smaller and smaller corners? And last but not least, you need to build your knowledge and ask for help, right? That's step 3. Build your knowledge and ask for help. Everyone's path to healing is different, but this is how you're going to kickstart it. You have to know what you're dealing with, what you've been conditioned to do, and then you have to understand how these things work, not just like on a personal level. It's not just about like human behavior. You need to understand psychologically what is going on. You need to understand physiologically what is going on. So that means you need to learn about the human brain. You need to learn more about human behaviors than just what you read on Medium or Bustle. That means that you need to learn about trauma programming, trauma responses. And that means that you need to use that knowledge to reprogram yourself. And very often that is where you need to ask for help. As always, therapists and counselors are traditionally the first step. You need to find trauma-informed, narcissism-informed therapists who can help you uncover the bigger psychological patterns that might be playing out in your life, and who may be able to help you manage or maintain some of the damage that has probably been done to your nervous system over time. Now, for those who have been in therapy and counseling for a long time, you might be at the point where you say, EB, I have been learning. I listen to the podcast. I read the books. I go to the seminars. I do the things. And I don't know. I keep just going in the same circles. That is the point at which you need to explore coaching, right? That is the point at which you need to get serious about finding someone who will hold you accountable and give you the skills to act, because that is the final stage of getting yourself on that path to becoming who you want to be. You have to act. And that is what coaching is. Coaching is not therapy. Coaching is not counseling. It's none of those things. It is someone who will give you the tools to act. It is fast, it is focused, and it is intentional. And that is why I always encourage my listeners, my readers, my followers to, you don't even have to, it's not about getting coached by me. You don't have to get coached by me, but to at least explore neurolinguistic programming and what it means to reprogram your beliefs, your values, and therefore your thoughts, and therefore your words, and therefore your behaviors. Your brain is very much like a computer, and it builds programs based on the experiences that it's had, the things that it's been told. But for you to reprogram it yourself, you need to have the knowledge to access those databases and implant new behaviors and beliefs for yourself. And that means asking for help. Ask for help. Know that you're not alone, that so many of us have been through this, and that there is a way out of the hole that you may be in. And that's how we do it. That's how we start breaking these Promethean cycles and start living by ourselves, for ourselves. And that is a powerful thing. That is a magical, magical thing. What do you think? What do you think? Have you been creating these patterns of self-denial in your life? Have you been giving until you absolutely break and explode and detonate? Make everything worse than it had to be, only to wake up and realize you're in the same nightmare again? Yeah, we've all done it. We've all done it. I still catch myself doing it, you know, especially in my friendships. That's my big weak point, right? It wasn't so much in the romantic relationships, because I was always on the lookout for that, thanks to the relationships I had with men around me growing up. But when it comes to female friends, that's it. That's where they get me. That's where I tend to fall into this Prometheus syndrome, where I will just give emotionally and give, and never, ever, ever take up room for myself. And that is what we have to stop doing, because we deserve to have people who are just as present for us as we are present for them, who give us back emotionally, compassionately, empathetically, everything we give to them. And that is what healthy relationships are all about. Yeah. I hope you got something from this episode. I hope it was at least like inspirational or motivational, or, you know, I bet it really like turned a light on for some of you. And you're realizing, holy crap, I've been selling myself short. I hope some of you have woken up to that, and I hope that today is the day that you decide to stop it. That you decide to start doing things for yourself, to start figuring out who you are, what you want your life to feel like. What you want your life to feel like. I hope it has inspired some of you to take that first step. And if not, that's okay. You will get there one day. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you want to get a free ebook, don't forget you can head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review of this episode. Take a screenshot, send me a quick email, or send it to me on Instagram, and I'll send you a free ebook. It is dead simple. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next week, keep your heads up, keep your eyes on the stars, and keep moving forward. Bye-bye.